So progress. Okay, so I already logged into my AWS system.
Yeah, go ahead and create a virtual machine EC2 instance.
Should I create a new instance or should I open the one which I created? I mean, with the okay. Just
can you close that search, that cross mark? Can you close that? Below that, below that, there is a search written, right? I hyphen something. Yeah, close that. Okay, you don't have any instances over there. Just go ahead and launch the instance.
Okay, so
launch instance. There is a button called launch instance, amber color button. Right hand side extreme top. Right hand side extreme top. Yeah.
Yeah, got you. Okay, so Linux
first one.
Select, and then this one next.
So Amisha and Kiran, I will explain these portions after the session ends. Then we can discuss on this part. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so thanks. File instance. And then I'm selecting the existing one.
Yep. All right. While he's creating this instance, I would like to understand here, like, I think Amisha, you have also got quite a few knowledge on this part, right? On on Linux and Unix, right?
Yeah.
And so is like Kiran, right? So just wanted to understand from all of you, like, what exactly is file system hierarchy in Linux? You go ahead, Vishnu, launch the instance.
Okay. I acknowledge instance.
Okay, who can explain that? Anyone?
So hierarchy is a systematic format of different types of files that are present in the system, like what comes after what the sequential order.
Not files, it is directories. Okay,
it
is a directory structures. Okay.
Okay.
Just like you have in Windows, right? Like C drive, system32, then different other folders are there. Structure is there, right? Likewise, here also in Linux, we have something called file system hierarchy. I'm just taking the system from you for a minute. I'm taking the screens for a minute.
Okay, I'll give you the
screen. No need. I can do it directly.
Okay.
Okay. So so this is a recap for like Sai and Vinay. Okay, so this is the file system hierarchy structures, a diagram, which you will be finding it in your Red Hat Linux 7 and Red Hat Linux 8 books as well. But the whole file system structure starts with root file systems, which is the root user, which is also called a super user. From this root file system, the entire stuff starts. Now, this is a purely CLI access, that is command line access, that you will be doing it. But in case of when you are pursuing your Red Hat courses, you will have both graphical access as well as CLI access. But in case of our AWS cloud systems, we have only CLI access, where you are just now launching the system on which we will be practicing all these things. During the process of creation of your entire RHEL systems, we will be getting all these directory structures separately created during the process of your instance creation, that is your virtual machine creation. Now, root file system is the main tree from main like account from where all the whole tree starts. So if you talk about the root directory, the main directory for root is like /root. That is the working directory for root. Likewise, for normal users, we have also something called as home directory. You can see it at the bottom. This is your home directory, right? So any user, any kind of user who logged into the server, for example, in our Linux systems in AWS, the user with which we logged in is called EC2-user. Okay, EC2 stands for Elastic Cloud Compute, or Elastic Compute Cloud. That particular user will be logging into your Linux system, Linux virtual machine. That is where we call it as home directory for normal user. So if you type present working directory under a normal user, then you will get /home/ the username. So in case of EC2-user, or in case of Vishnu user, in case of Amisha user, if you type pwd after logging in with that user, you will get /home/ Vishnu, /home/ Sai, /home/ Amisa, like that. Okay. So this is how you get your home directory with respect to home directory structures. Similarly, we have something called TMP, that is for temporary directory structure. Now, what is this temporary directory contains? TMP stands for temporary directory, which contains something like all kinds of files, default files, or some like unnecessary files, or from some required files to copy somewhere else. It will be always stored under temporary directory. From temporary directory, the files can be deleted automatically after 10 days without your knowledge. So the default days that any file stays or any files resides within temporary directory is 10 days. Okay. So all these details, what I'm speaking right now, these details, you can find it on your Red Hat book, which I'll be sharing it after some time. So through Mazens, you will get those things, and you can easily go ahead and figure it out. If you want to make note out of it, you can also do that. Similarly, var directory stands for variable directory, and the variable directory contains all kinds of logs, like var log messages or var log itself, right? So all the like deployments or whatever you do, you will generally get all kinds of different size of logs under the var directory. So that is why it is called as variable directory. Likewise, we have bin directory, which stands for binary directory. The bin directory contains executable files, which can be executed both by super user as well as normal user. I have already told you what is a super user. The example is root. Normal user can be anything, right? It can be you, it can be me, or it can be XYZ also. So both can execute the files which are residing under bin directory. Then comes sbin directory, which is a super binary directory. This portion is important for you to understand and remember or memorize these things, because anything you will be doing it in future, whether it is Docker container or it is like Kubernetes or wherever you are going to implement all these things, right? This structure will come automatically in case of anything that you are going to implement. So it is very important. You must keep it in your brain, right? This structure along with the explanation, so that it will be easier for you to identify and understand. Okay. Similarly, sbin stands for super binary, where it also contains the executable files that can only executed by your super user, not by the normal user. Now, where and all these bin and sbins are mostly being used? This is mostly being used for the already inside the setup of your virtual machine, the users which will not have executable powers, right? Mostly being used for service-oriented related or service-oriented related activities kind of things. So we will see that as and when we progresses with our like users and groups administration, what kind of users we have, where and all bin and sbin will come into action. Okay. Similarly, we have etc directory, very important. What is etc directory? etc directory is mainly responsible for holding the configuration related files which are local to the system. That means any installation that you are going to do with regards to the application or however you are going to implement these things, all these things will reside under your etc directory. So anyone comes and asks you what is the configuration file for so and so application, then you need to explain that. Even if you don't know, you should start with /etc. For example, if I'll ask you what is the configuration file for Ansible, then you must go ahead, if you are aware already, you must go ahead and tell that /etc /Ansible and /Ansible.cfg. That is where the Ansible configuration files resides. Likewise, there are many SSH files or any other files that you would like to identify. All the configuration related files are storing under /etc directory. MNT directory stands for mount points, which holds temporary storage kind of activities, right? Any kind of directory that you structure, you create, and you want to like create a mount point for that particular directory, then you require MNT directories. For example, if you want to host or if you want to identify the number of mount points in a Linux machine, then you type the command df -T There are other alternatives, but this is the most one which we will be using it in Linux, Red Hat Linux 7. which will identify the number of mount points that you have. So in other words, mount points are nothing but the temporary storages. Now, if you want to go ahead and make it permanent storage, then there is something additional that you need to do. What is that additional things? There is something called fstab entry. Now, you created a directory structure called ABC and you want to mount it under certain directory structures. Then what you need to do is you need to put the entire details of ABC directory that you created under the location wherever you have created. You have to do a VIM to etc fstab. Now, what is VIM? That we will discuss maybe tomorrow or day after tomorrow as and when we progresses. So you have to do a VIM space /etc space /fstab, and then you have to give the complete entry of the fstab entry if at all you want that storage, that directory structures to be permanently mounted. Okay. Otherwise, what will happen? The moment you will go ahead and mount it, and then moment you will go ahead and reboot your machine, the mount point will automatically go away. It will not stay. We will have a subject in case of our AWS, something called as elastic file systems. There we will understand how we will be mounting all these things and how it will be dismounted as well or unmounted as well, right? So that is where your MNT is so important in case of mount points. Likewise, we have proc directory. Proc directory is something which is mainly called as processors. It is like important for your CPU and memory related activities, which falls under these things. So you can figure it out, what is the CPU and memory, all the related activities with regards to these things. Similarly, we have boot directory, which is mainly responsible for bootable files during the boot up process of the instance happens. So many more other directory structures are there, but these are the primary one which I have observed and I put it into the diagram. So these are the things that you need to identify and understand and progresses accordingly. This is all about your file system hierarchy. Okay. So as and when you progresses, you will understand more. We will deal with certain directory structures as and when we progresses with the system. Clear so far? Any questions? Okay, great. So now let me show you something for your easiness for the beginners, right? So I have something with me which I'll show you, and you don't have to make notes as such. I have prepared this note long back for different purposes, right? So you can see here, the first one is called commands, right? What commands you are going to use it when you are trying to log into the server. So let me, okay, how will I do it? Okay, so Vishnu, go ahead and share your screen. We'll see.
Okay.
All right, now log into the server.
Yeah. Just a minute. I have to. I was listening to your lecture actually.
No problem. Directly go ahead and log into the server.
Okay.
Just paste it.
I should do this.
Yeah. Just go ahead and do that. EC2 just paste the Just go to SSH on the left hand side. We don't want to save it. Just go and log in. Wait. Click on auth. Browse the PPK file.
No.
Open. Directly open. No, directly open. Okay. We don't save it. Just open it. That's okay. Accept. Okay. Can you just full screen it? All of you are able to see the screen?
Yeah.
Or it is smaller?
Size maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Press enter.
Yeah, it's full screen.
Yeah.
Okay. So if it is small, then we can make it big also by going to appearance. But if it is okay, let's progress with that. All right. So first thing first, what we will understand here is the host names. Okay. We will understand the moment you will log into any Linux server. First of all, we need to do some basic checks, right? If you have to do some deployments, what you need to identify, which server you are logged in, right? Then who is logged in, what is the last reboot time, right? And all these details, right? So these are the kind of things you need to identify, whether it is a Linux box, it is a AIX box, it is a Sun Solaris box. All these things you need to identify. We will talk about the second line that is mentioned as 11 packages need for security out of 35. That is something different, which is already written there, right? Run sudo yum update. So what is yum? We will talk about that one after some time. Means we have a separate class for that, understanding the package management using yum and RPMs. Okay, we will discuss that later. So leave it as it is. First thing first, what we will do is we can change our user. So EC2-user is currently logged in to IP@172.168.9.5. What is that? That is the private address of the EC2 virtual machine. For like Amisha and Kiran, we will talk about that after some time after the session overs about the virtual machine. Now at this moment, we are only talking about Linux. So what we can do is we will have to identify which server we are logged into, right? So type hostname. Hostname is the command by which we can identify where we are logged in, right? Host name, not NMA, it is NAME. No caps, yeah, right? So now you are getting it, the IP address .ec2.internal. Now what is this entire line? This entire line is called as FQDN of the server. That is called fully qualified domain name, right? Now let me share my screen again. Okay, so here you can see FQDN name, fully qualified domain name, right? Now I have couple of things over here. There is this thing, and there are 4 lines, right? ssdnghbc.ssdc.pk.org, bldcrgdb.bcdc.pk.org, ntrkp.nndc.pk.org, cskp.cloud.pk.org, right? Now what does this mean actually? What is this fully qualified domain name? Fully qualified domain name speaks about couple of important factors with regards to your host name or called server name, right? Now the first part of this one, right? If you think about this particular server, this is for Sai. Understand this, the next question you will answer. Okay, ssdnghbc.ssdc.pk.org. What does it mean? The meaning of this one, ssdnghbc, right? The first part of this line is talking about the name of the host or the server. This is called as host name or server name. Okay, now the second part, SSDC, this will talk about the data center where your server is residing. Okay, SSDC is for server name, your data center, right? Now the last part, pk.org, is nothing but your domain name. So it is categorized into 3 categories: server name, followed by your data center name, and then followed by your domain name. Am I clear?
Yes.
Yeah, right? Clear. Server name or host name, then followed by your data center name, followed by your domain name.
Domain name.
So in that case, Sai, can you tell me on this part, what is this? Okay, Vinay.
FQDN.
Yes, tell me what all these things. What is this for?
Okay, well, okay. So the BLDC-RGDB is a host server name. BCDC is a data center where it's located or stored.
Okay.
pk.org is a domain name.
Sometime what happens, pk.abc.org also can come. That means the entire part is your domain name. Mind it. Okay. It depends on the domain. Whatever longer domain also, you will have to take it accordingly. Now similarly,
so
this one.
Start from PK. Sorry.
Yes, it starts from PK. After the third part which comes, that is your domain name. The entire concept is your domain name.
Yes, so how much ever it is, there are only 3. So how much ever it is, there are only 3 types of things in this: the host server, host name, and data center, and the domain name.
Correct.
Okay.
So in this case also, Amisa, can you tell me what is this?
So this is fully qualified domain name.
Okay. The first part is called
the first server name,
correct,
and then data center, and then domain name.
Absolutely. Now, can you tell me what is this?
Yeah, again, this is fully qualified domain name.
Okay.
And the first part is server name.
Okay, let me help you on this
second
one.
domain name.
So here we don't have the data center name, right? CSPK Cloud.
Yeah.
This name itself indicates that it is a cloud
It's
server.
a cloud
Likewise, if you
Okay.
see SSDN, GSBC, BLDCG, RGDB, and NRTKP or DRG, these names are quite difficult for memorizing. In fact, I have just typed it like that, right? Now, in case of your production, or in case of your development environment, or in case of your QA environment, or in case of your pre-prod environment or staging environment, the names will end with according to the environment. For example, this might be ending with SSDN DEV, right? BLDC QA, NRTP PRD. PRD means production, DEV means development, QA means QA, right? This kind of naming convention will automatically happen on your server names. Whichever environment you will work, you will get used to know those names automatically. Okay, it needs some practice, as and when you approach, you will understand these things. Right now, the last one is cspkcloud.pk.org. It means you do not require a data center name to log into the server. Without data center name also you can log in. So cloud servers do not require any naming, any data center name. And most importantly, in all the cloud servers, you can switch from your normal server, normal user, to the root user as well, which is not possible in case of these kind of servers. These are virtual machines. In these servers, you would not be able to switch to root straight away. Okay, there are constraints. You need to seek permission from your Linux or Unix team. They will provide you permission for a while to get the root access, followed by a request that you need to raise to that particular team. Then they will give it to you. Okay, only then you will be having access to those servers for a certain period of time. After that, it will be again revoked. That is how the system works. Okay, but in case of cloud, you can always go ahead and do that. All right, that's about your fully qualified domain name and the name that you type. So name of the server you type. Again, go ahead and share your screen, Vishnu, fast.
Yeah.
Right. So host name you can see. So host name can also be changed. You cannot memorize these things every time, right?
Yes.
In any case, if you are willing to change your host name, you can always go ahead and change your host name. This is the very first question that you will be getting in your Red Hat Certified Systems Administrator program in your exams as well. How to set your host name? The command used to set your host name is hostnamectl. Write it down or type it. Hostnamectl. One word. Hostnamectl space set hyphen hostname.
Sorry, TET, TET, TET. Set, okay.
Set hyphen host name space, and then type whatever you want, whatever name you want. For example, you say like whatever name you want, right?
Yeah.
Vishnu Vinay or something like that.
Yeah.
So good thing you are seeing, you are doing a good thing. Could not set property, the name org Fred Discord policy provided by AR file. Why this you are unable to do it? Because you are still at EC2-user. Okay.
Yeah.
Either you have to do a sudo before that. Let's not get into that. Simply switch to root. So how can you switch to root from a normal user? Remember, there are only
sudo
two ways you can
-i.
do this. One is sudo space -i. Otherwise, you can also use sudo space su hyphen. Su. This is one way. Enter. You can change. You can see that your EC2-user is changed to root user now, and it is going to right now. Right. So now, if you type the same command hostnamectl, how will you do that, Vishnu?
I can copy paste it, right?
Yeah,
I can copy paste.
Highlight and right click.
Yeah.
Just right click. Right. Now type host name and see the difference. Host name and enter. Right. Now you can see it as Vishnu. Right. Now if you log out and then log back in, you will see instead of the private IP appearing at root@IP hyphen the private IP, you will see root@ directly Vishnu. Okay.
Yeah.
Log off and log back in. Yes. Hold
on. Sir, we can also go in the root by using su-i, right?
Yes. So exit now. I will show you that one. Exit. Type exit. Okay, again you are in EC2-user. So type sudo space su space hyphen. Yeah, some people also called it as, yeah, that's okay. Some people also call it as su also, right? So you can do it. But what is the difference when you have not given a hyphen? Right? Root at Vishnu EC2-user. That means if you did not provide a hyphen, it is still carrying the attributes of your EC2-user. Now, if you type here a PWD, what do you see? Type PWD and press enter. You see home-EC2-user. That belongs to your home directory of the normal user EC2-user. Now, in order to, since you are logged in as a root, if you want to see root details, then what you should type? CD change directory, CD, not SD.
Sorry, CD
space tilted symbol. Right hand side top corner in your keyboard. A forward slash will be there and tilted symbol would be there.
Okay.
No, not that is this not. One? No, tilted symbol. Shift
above
and
the
tilted
tab,
symbol.
I believe.
Yeah.
Above the tab.
Above the tab button.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, it's not, still not that.
Shift and above the
Shift
tab.
and, yes, that is the one. Okay.
Yeah,
now you press enter.
Okay.
You will get to the root's home directory. If you type PWD now, you will see /root, which is exactly what I had shown you in the like home directory structures, that file system hierarchy structures, and you see the details. Clear so far?
Yeah.
yes.
So actually, can you tell me what have I done here? I didn't understand because I was concentrating on searching this tilted button option.
Okay. So what we did is I asked you to type sudo space su space a hyphen, right? But you typed sudo space su and enter, right? Any which ways we switch to root. It is important to understand here, only when you are willing to switch to super user root, only then you should use sudo command. Now, for example, I have a user called Vinay, right? And I want to switch from EC2-user to Vinay. Do you think I will use sudo command to switch to Vinay? No. It is simply
because he's
command.
a user.
Yes.
Yeah.
For a normal user to normal user or any other user, you will be using only su space the username or su space hyphen space the username. I will tell you the difference between space hyphen space and only su space username, which I will explain it when we will go to users and groups. Don't worry about that for now. Okay.
Yeah.
So in this case, we were in EC2-user and now we are switching to root. So for that, we used sudo space -i, which is an interactive user, or sudo space su space hyphen, which will switch to root. Now, what you did is you just typed sudo space su and enter. That means even though you are in EC2-user and you're trying to switch to root, your attributes are still there even after you switching to root. You can see that root @Vishnu, then afterward there is a space and EC2-user. So when you type PWD over there, you see home EC2-user. That means you are still carrying the attributes of your EC2-user's details, right? Which we do not want, right? If we wish to switch to root, then type CD space tilted symbol to go to the home directory of the current user. That is your root user, which takes you to the root Vishnu.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All of you clear? Vinay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sai?
Yeah, clear.
Okay. All right. So this is about clear your screen. Type clear to clear your screen. Okay. So we now understand the host name and how to set the host name as well. The next thing we would like to understand which server we are logged in, which server we have seen it, which operating system we are logged in into actually, right? To check the operating system, the command used is uname. Enter. So you see immediately it is Linux. If it is Sun Solaris, you will see Sun Solaris. If it is AIX, you will see AIX. Like that, you will see. The next thing I would like to understand, who is logged into my server, right? So right now, who is logged in?
Root Vishnu.
Root has logged into Vishnu server, right? So how would I know that it is root, right? So for
Who
that,
am I?
there are two commands. Yes, one is who am I? Enter. This is telling you the root means the username. Alternatively, the details of the user can also be found by UID, GID and everything by typing ID. Okay, so you can see UID, GID and groups. This we will discuss when we will discuss about your users and groups administration. Okay, the next thing that we would like to understand is when this server has been last rebooted, right? So what is the command that I will use for the last reboot? Uptime is the command, right? If you type, you see 27 minutes since the last server has been rebooted. Okay, so this is how you type it. Now, if you want to see it everything in one shot, then you should type host name, type it host name, semicolon, uname, semicolon, ID, semicolon, uptime, enter. So this provides you the entire structure in one shot, right? Generally, whenever we go ahead and do the deployments or some kind of activities, we need to identify. For example, if the uptime is more than 100 days, right? In an ideal situation, it is recommended that you must go ahead and reboot the server first before you go ahead and do the deployments. If the server uptime is more than 100 days, because we don't know, because anytime if we go ahead and do the deployments, there is every possibility that the server might not come up, right? So to come out of those issues, we should just do a normal reboot. And once it is coming up successfully, then we will go ahead and do the deployments. Or alternatively, if there are any issues, then we are safe, right? As part of our practice, we generally follow that. But again, it depends from project to project. However you would like to go ahead, you can always do that. Okay. Next thing that we will see how to create a file. Now, before that, let us understand the types of files we have in Linux. Okay. Again, let me share my screen and you will see that. I will share this document with you guys after this session. Okay. So you can see here the types of files we have, right? Most importantly, we use very frequently these two files. The rest of the files are just for different purposes, but we don't use it in real time as well. In certain activities, we do that. First one is hyphen. So hyphen is called as a regular file, right? Similarly, any file starts with D is called directory file. Likewise, if any file starts with C, it is also called as character file, which explains about the environment you are working with. Similarly, if you talk about B, that is called as blocked files, which is nothing but your hard disks, HDD. Okay. Likewise, we have L for linked files, which is also used for multiple other purposes, and S for socket file and P for pipeline file. Both socket file and pipeline file are being used by the developers to configure multiple things and writing scripts and doing multiple activities over there. So these are the types of files we have in Linux, which we will be seeing it in short form in upcoming exercise and all this stuff. Okay. Prior to that, we will understand what are the different cases that we will deal with in the above cases, right? You can see here different commands here, right, for different purposes. So LL is being used for listing of files with timestamp or with listing of files with long listing of files. Similarly, LS is for only file name. It will display only the file name. For example, you have used whoami and ID, right? Whoami gave you the name of the person who logged in, whereas ID gave you the entire details of the user, correct? Likewise, LS will also tell you only the file name, whereas ls-lrt, ls-ltr will give you the entire long listing of the file, right? There is no difference between LL, ls-lrt or ls-ltr. However, people who are from AIX background, they use ls-ltr. Those who are from Linux background, they are used to type ls-lrt. Depending upon your like typing skills, you can do whichever command you want, but there is no as such differences as such. Likewise, we have ls-al and ls-la. That is also for hidden files, which you can see it in the screen. So we will be experimenting all these things shortly. All right. So Vishnu, again, once again, please go ahead and share your screen.
Yeah.
All right. So clear your screen. And let us try to create an empty file first of all, right? Now, what is an empty file? Empty file means it is an empty file. Nothing is there. The command used to create an empty file in Linux is touch command, right? Touch space the file name that you would like to create. So any file that you would like to create, please type that.
Just VT.
Okay, so he has created a file called VT. Now if you just type an ls command, you see VT over there, right? So VT is the file name which we just now created, and it is in the home directory of root, and that is where the file has been created. Now again, if you type ll, you will see the detailed about the file, that is hyphen and then rw something and then 1, then root 0, September 29, 38, and then the file name. Now what is this details? There are different like characters associated with this particular line, which we will discuss shortly, right? Now if you type ls space hyphen lrt, result remains same, no changes. ls space hyphen ltr, result remains same, no changes again. ls space hyphen al, so we have a series of hidden files which is there with this kind of things. We have .basrc file, we have base profile file, which we will be using it in some of the activities on your DevOps, like your what is that called, Ansible usage, where you will be using YAML scripting. So some places you will be using editing these files and doing some kind of activities, right? So if you go ahead and type ls hyphen la, result again remains same, nothing has changed, right? So everything remains same. Depending upon your expertise, you type the commands, but the result would remain same, nothing is going to pop up. Okay, now let's understand. Let's clear your screen and type ll. Okay, so let's understand this particular line, right? Now the entire file which starts with hyphen. Now a few moments back I told you any file that starts with hyphen, that is a
Regular file.
file, right? Similarly, if it is D and then other
Directory
characters,
file.
it will be a directory file. The other types of files we generally don't come across much, but mostly we will be using hyphen and D. So we'll talk about D shortly. Then the 9 characters which comes in front of your screen, RW dash, R dash dash, and R dash dash. What are these 9 characters? These 9 characters are related to your permission. There is a separate subject, separate chapter for this. We will discuss what is Linux permissions altogether. Okay. In this particular file, the after the hyphen, the remaining 9 characters talks about the permissions. Then comes a numeric 1. Numeric 1 to numeric 10, it keeps on varying. This is something standard. Most of the cases it will be remaining 1 only. This is called access control list count, ACL count. Okay, this is to for identification we use this count. So this remains same as numeric 1, called as ACL count. Then the fourth one comes as root. That is the users defined. Who is the user logged into this one? That is the user identifier, UID. We will talk more on UID and GID as and when we progresses with your users and groups administration in Linux. Then comes another root, which is nothing but your group identifier, that is your GID. So both cases it is root and root, right? Then comes the 6th one is your 0. Now what is the 0? This is the size of the file. We have just opened an empty file, right? Touch VT, right? That file VT file has got nothing. Now we will also see that shortly by using other commands. So that is why, since it is an empty file, the size of the file is completely 0. Then comes September 29, 0038. That is the timestamp of the file which we have created, right? When the time this file was created is the details timestamp. And the last one is the 8th field is the VT, which is nothing but the name of the file, right? So these are the different 8 fields which is associated with this particular activity. And then followed by this, we will understand how this file is going to grow, right? So there is a command called cat command, right? Cat command is being used to read any file, right? Also, cat command is being used to write content and append content to any of the file. So for the time being, let's understand how cat file is going to use. So if you type cat and VT and press enter, you will see nothing because the file is completely empty, right? As I have just now mentioned, cat command is not only used for reading purpose, it is also used for writing content inside it, right? So if you type cat space greater than symbol and then space VT, right? So, and press enter and types the command like welcome to Mesons. Enter, and then press Control D to save the content. Control plus D, right? I repeat, Control D to save the content. Now, if you do that,
I did.
and now you do cat VT, you will see welcome to Mesons. And if you type LL now, you see after root, the size has changed from 0 to 18 bytes. Are you with me?
Yeah. Total also changed to 4 and root changed
That's
to
total,
18.
you leave it. It is according to the systematic process, you just leave it. But the file size has changed to 0 to 18. Right? So if you put more, for example, if I want to append some more lines, so say cat space double greater than symbol and say VT, enter. This is AWS and DevOps session. Enter and press Control D to save it. Right? Now, if you type again cat VT, you see both lines are there, right? And if you do a LL, the size will even increase to 49, right? As and when we progresses, this line will increase. But what will happen if you type cat greater than symbol VT again? Then what will happen? Whatever you have written so far, it will overwrite everything. Okay. So cat command cannot be used for editing purpose. It is only for writing content and appending the content, but not for editing purpose. That is where
you cannot even descend the content, right?
Correct. That is where we are getting into your VIM editor or VI editor, which we will be discussing in subsequent classes. So we will discuss those things at a later point of time. Okay. So that's about cat command and touch command. So now then you have understood how to create one single file by using touch command. At the same time, you can also create multiple files by using touch command as well. How do you do that? So say touch, and then say file, flower bracket, open flower bracket, and type 1 ... 3 or 5 or 6, whatever you want, number of files you want, right? Now if you type LL,
I didn't close the flower bracket.
Obviously,
is it good?
So it's not good. You have to close the flower bracket.
Okay. Yep.
Enter.
Enter.
Now type LL. You see two things. One is directly creating that file which you have created it. Okay.
Oh,
that
yeah.
created as a file, 1.5 as a file. And then you have another file 1, file 2, file 3, file 4, file 5. Interesting factor here is that if you would have typed touch file 1 and then in the bracket 1.5, then it would have created as file 11, file 12, file 13, file 14, file 15, file 16, like that. Are you with me?
Yeah. Yes, I understood. Yeah. So basically file 1, we are giving the name as file 1 and then the number of files are 1 to 5. So it will be like file 1, then the first file, file 1, then the second file, something like this. So file 11, it will become file
Correct.
11.
Whatever
12,
name you will create, with that, it
Yeah.
will arrange 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 like that.
I understood here. Got you.
Okay. Sai, is it clear?
Yeah, clear.
Okay. So this is how you go ahead and do these things. Now, if I want to delete a file, right? Say like file flower bracket 1.5, I want to delete that. How will I do that? Type rm space, double click on that file in the above, double click on that one.
This one?
Below one. Yeah. Double click on that one, completely copy that. From file to 1.5, yeah. Right click. Just right click, enter. When you use rm command, it is asking or seeking your permission to delete the file, right? You must say yes if you wish to do that. Enter. And now if you type LL, you won't see that file anymore, right? Now, similarly, I want to delete file 1 also. You can type like this and continue to do that. But if you do not want permission or something, then you can simply type rm space hyphen rf, forceful removal, right? And then space the file 1 or file 2 or whatever you want. Enter, right? Type LL. You won't see the file anymore over there, right? So this time it did not ask you for the file removal. Likewise, if you wish to create a directory, that is very common in Windows also, you do that. So you type mkdir, clear your screen.
Okay.
And type mkdir and say psi. Enter. Right now you can type ll again. Okay, you see one file called as psi in different color starting with D. Right now you also see some differences with regards to the permissions levels. So we will understand that as and when we progresses with regards to your permission cases. Okay, so what happens here when you created this psi directory, it starts with D. Right now this particular directory, you can also similar way create multiple directories like that. Now for example, if you wish to create three directories at a time, you can also type mkdir, then the directory name, say dir flower bracket start 1.2
okay,
flower bracket close, enter. Now type ll and you have directory 1 and directory 2 in place. Right,
what if we want to change, what if we want to create multiple files with different names?
What do you mean by that?
Here we are giving one single one directory, I mean one dir, and then we are creating direct dir1, dir2, something like this, right? Now I want to create a file, 5 files like Vishnu, Sai, Vinay.
No such options are there. You have to type touch Vishnu, touch Sai, touch Teja, like that.
Can we do this like touch Vishnu, then comma Sai, then comma Vinay, then comma
assignment
Kiran,
for you. Assignment for you. Try it out.
Okay.
Okay. So you will get to know. That's where you will learn. Okay. So do that.
Yeah.
You should be able to. Now the next thing that what we are going to do it here is that you know how to delete the file. Similarly, you can also delete the directory. Now let's assume that we are going to delete the psi directory, right? So the command used to delete an empty directory is rmdir. Type rmdir space psi. Enter. Type ll and you don't see the psi directory anymore, right? But I have a file called vt.
This time it did not ask for permission.
Yes, it won't. Now you have a file called vt, right?
Yeah.
Cat vt. You have content inside it, right?
Yes.
Now I want to copy this vt to directory 1. What should I type? cp command. cp command is used to copy any file into a directory. cp space vt space directory 1.
Okay, type directory 1.
Yeah.
Oh, dir1.
Use tab. Enter.
Okay.
Now you should go to directory 1, cd dir1. Tab, use tab. Never in Linux, remember one thing, always avoid typing. Okay, as much as you avoid
I actually
typing,
typed tab and it came to it took R automatically, but then it stopped because there
obviously
are
it will stop because you have 2 files, right? Now if you do double tab, remove that one and do double tab. What happened? You see both the things.
It shows dir1 right? And dir.
Now simply remove the dir, double click on dir1 and paste it. Simple.
Okay.
Remove that dir. Double click on dir1, not there, below only where you saw. There also you can do. Yeah. Enter. Right? PWD.
Yes.
Present working directory. You are in root directory 1, right? Do ALL.
Yeah.
And you see your VT file is here.
Yes.
Right? Now similarly, if I want to, now it is in the home directory of root also, as well as in root directory 1. Now I want to completely remove from here, from this root directory, home root directory, and I want it to take it to temporary directory. How will I do that? mv command, move command.
Oh, move command.
Which you use like cut command in your Windows. Likewise, here it is move command, mv command.
Yeah.
Right? So type mv space, type mv
space
vt.
vt.
First you come out of directory 1. How will you come out?
Exit.
CD space
X.
dot dot. CD space dot dot.
Okay.
Which will CD space dot dot will take you one directory back. If you want another directory
Okay.
back, then you can also, for example, if you have like 3-4 directories already, and if you want to go back to the first directory, then CD space dot dot /, then the directory name dot dot, then the directory name dot dot, automatically it will take you to the first directory. So we will come across that. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Okay. Now you
Okay.
type MV
MV space VT.
Go ahead. Space.
MV VT
What is the temporary
space.
directory? TMP directory. Just
Okay.
type TM and tab.
Okay. It's not taking.
Double tab.
It's not taking.
TMP /.
TM. No, it's not taking. Okay. /.
No. TMP. TMP is for temporary.
Okay. TMP
/. Enter. Or type MV VT. MV space VT. MV space VT.
Mhm.
Space /.
Space /.
TM and tab.
Yeah.
Yeah. Enter. Now
Okay.
go to CD TMP.
CD TMP.
Yes. How should you go? Tab. Use tab. Don't type.
Okay. Just
/CD space /TM tab.
yeah.
Enter. PWD. Clear your screen. Again type PWD. Okay. You are at temp directory. Now type LL.
Yeah.
Type LL. So you have a default which is there already, and then along with that you have VT file, right? Now come out of temp. How will you come out?
CD space dot dot.
Correct. And now how will you go to root directory? Root home directory?
/root.
No. Type PWD. You will understand. Now it is not showing /root. What is the difference between /root and only /? I told you already, tilted symbol.
Okay.
Type CD space tilted symbol.
So CD space.
Enter. Type PWD now. Okay. Can you see the difference?
Yes.
Right. Now here, if you type LL, you won't see VT anymore, because you have completely moved from home directory of root to temporary directory.
Okay.
Okay. So these are the very common exercise that we will be doing. We will also talk about grep command and your tail command and head command as and when we progresses with your VIM editor. So you will be using these commands very frequently on a day in, day out basis. Okay. So if you want to understand what all things you have done, type history command, type history and enter. And you will see all the details, whatever we have done so far. Okay. So every details is here. If you want to copy and paste it, you can copy and paste it and share it with everyone if you would like to, or the recording will always be there with you and you can just go ahead and do that.
So if anyone wants, I can definitely share.
Yeah, so you can always do that. So this means you are highlighting means you are copying in Linux. Understand that?
Yeah, I'm copying it. Yeah,
Right?
yeah. Copying
You don't need to copy.
Then,
By default, if you're highlighting means it is copied. So you just need to open a notepad and then just right click paste. That's it. What did you do? I think you did a Control C or something like that. Anyways,
Okay.
need not worry. You will get that done. That's not a problem. Okay, so that is the end of today's session. Probably I would request Sai and Vinay and Vishnu to drop off, or Vishnu, if you would like to stay back, you can stay back.
I want to stay back actually.
Yes,
Yeah,
please
yeah.
stay back. And Sai and Vinay, if you do not have any questions, you can feel free to drop off. Vinay, are you clear now so far, or any questions?
Yes, but the last ones, the temp // one, I have to go through that.
Okay, okay, no problem.
Yeah.
Just check it out and let me know what is the doubt. You can ask me tomorrow. I'll explain that.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Sai, how
Yeah.
about you?
Yeah, same doubt, but I will try it out and.
Okay. Well, anyway, we'll connect tomorrow. No problem. Okay. So
Okay.
probably Vinay and Sai, you can drop off if you do not have any questions.
Okay, see you tomorrow.
Yeah,
It's the
see you
same
tomorrow.
link, right?
Pardon?
You'll be
Same
sending
link.
it.
Same
Yeah,
link.
no,
If it
yeah,
is changed, I will send you a separate link. But as of now, it is same link. Okay.
Sure.
No changes.
Thanks. Good night.
Yeah. Good night, Vinay. Good night, Sai.
Bye.
All right. So I will start with Kiran. Over to you, Kiran. Hello. So I'll stop the recording here.